Here we go.
Oh man, we could.
We're live. Welcome to another episode of Eat This, Drink That. My name's Ryan. We are with Ali Khan, our food expert on the Eat This side of things. We got our drink expert Steve Greer on the Drink That side of the coin. And we're happy to be here. This is our season finale for our second season with Fireside. And we're doing wines this season. First episode was white wines, I believe. Yep. And then red wines, sparkling wines, and now today's episode is, Steve?
Dessert wines.
Dessert wines. Cool. And so before we kick that off, I wanted to ask the guys what their sort of highlight of the week was. Maybe we'll start with Ali, do a little Eat This. What was your sort of food, something memorable this week with food?
I went to, I think, my favorite restaurant of the moment right now here in Austin, Texas, Mum Delicatessen. So Mum does basically like it's barbecue, but their signature is pastrami. So I believe the owner, he has family from Queens, New York, and Central Texas. So he's blending like the foods of the Jewish delicatessen with Central Texas style smoking, which really, in some ways, it shouldn't be too hard to fathom. I mean, pastrami does have to be smoked to a degree, but to use like, you know, brisket, you can use different cuts for pastrami, but basically went there, had like kind of a classic like Jewish delicatessen sandwich, like the number 19 at Langer's. So, I mean, phenomenal pastrami, slaw, dressing, all that stuff, but then like ribs and then like pimento cheese and potato chips. It's smoking banging. And actually, Steve, I should have done a pictures of the wines. They had Pet Nat, they had Bruscos, they had rosés. They only had like 6-7 bottles, but literally I took a guy there from New York and he's like, yeah, this is like really good shit, not that expensive and not atypical wine. So Mum Delicatessen.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. There's always a sort of cultural or I shouldn't say always, but often a cultural hybrid to what is going on out there with you, Ali, in the Austin.
It's part of it is it floats my boat. It's what I'm definitely into, and when you start to dig deeper, but really it's like this: why? You know what I mean? Like everyone's doing a freaking barbecue. What's going to kind of set you off? And And like, it's kind of funny. They've been on my YouTube page forever because I have a little team that shoots food stuff. And they're like, oh, Mum's so good. The pastrami's so good. It's been on my page for years and I actually tried it. It is, I mean, you just got to come try it. I think it will blow a lot of people away. Anyone who's like Langers and Cats.
Yeah.
This is just the crazy thing with the sandwich too. It was so like rich. I was like, dude, eating this sandwich is almost like, you know, when you're drunk at 2 a.m. and you just crush a grilled cheese. Like you make it and you're like, here's a stick of butter. I was like, man, this sandwich is giving me those feels. You know what Homeboy does? And this was an effort to keep it kosher to a degree. He uses beef tallow to butter the bread. So just let that sink in. Wow. And the guy's like cooking giant hunks of beef all the time. So it's good tallow. You know,
Where is this?
Mum, man, down the street from me, my man. Down the street from me.
I'm just coming to Austin. We're gonna eat for a week.
Let's hear what's your thing, Steve?
I got two. I'm gonna be very brief on the first. I had my second. We just did sparkling wine last week.
Yep.
2013 vintages are coming out in Champagne, and I just had another one. Actually, the third. This vintage is extraordinary. It's a classic. It's like an old school pre-global warming kind of vintage. So it's going to taste something like 02, 04s. So whenever you see a 2013, just pick it up.
Why the 10-year? What's the relevance of the 10-year? Is there a 10-year thing, or is it just because 2013 was such a good year?
It's just like the third one I've had. You know, as people start releasing their their vintages after they age in the cellar, and then by the time they get disgorged and released, it might be 7, 8, 10 years. So
So what you're saying is 2013 Champagne is where it's at?
Right? I mean, I just had my third one. This stuff is brilliant.
I'm taking it to Twitter right now.
Good.
I'm just
Good.
saying.
Wait,
But-
Ali, how are we going to buy any if you go on Twitter
Yes.
telling people what year to buy shit? Tell them 2012.
Hey, you guys know how to find stuff? Like if something comes in your head and you're like, I really want to try that. I want to try 2013 champagne.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you go without running around just shopping at stores asking people?
Total Wine.
It's super easy. You just type in winesearcher.com.
Okay.
Anything you want. It can be bourbon. It can be champagne. It can be white wine. It can be dessert wine. And then you set the parameters up and it'll tell you where it is.
Oh, that's incredible. Wine
By
searchers.
state. Yeah, winesearcher.com. By state, by zip code, by shipping. You know, a bunch of New York liquor stores will ship anywhere. They don't care.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one.
Wow,
Now,
good tip. That's a hot tip.
my big one this week.
And it's now on Twitter.
Why? Why would I use that phrase?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh,
Apology.
whatever. You're being too hard on yourself. You're being too hard on yourself. That was like out of the Arthur Miller play, I feel like.
Yeah, you turned into dad mode on me for a second there. Okay, Steve, what's number
My
two?
big one, I've been trying to, so I skipped dry January.
Okay.
Let's call it wet January. But I'm trying to eat healthier. So I've cut out red meat.
Okay.
I'm not doing any nitrate meat. So no prosciutto, no bacon.
That's
no,
a big deal, folks, because
Yes,
every
it's
time
huge.
Steve thinks about food pairing, it starts with the char and ends with the couture.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with a charcuterie tray of meat and cheese. So I've been trying to eat more fish. You know, I'm sticking to bird, so chicken and duck and that kind of stuff. But fish, I don't really cook at home. I like going out for seafood restaurants, sushi restaurants.
Yeah.
One of the things I always have a difficult time with is wild line caught versus farm. Yeah, we've talked about this before. I always have a little bit of shopping guilt when I'm buying seafood.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is new, but Whole Foods, I mean, it's on every single price tag in the front. You know which one is farmed, where it's from. Wild, if it's line caught, wild, whatever. You can tell every single fish that's wild. And so I've been buying a bunch of wild fish. I had the most amazing piece of tuna. It was little. It was a tiny, it was perfect. Light sear, both sides. Every single bite was perfect. So that's mine this week.
I want to throw this out at you because this is something that I did last year. I did dry January, and then I was like, well, I don't want to just throw myself under the bus. So I did no red meat February. And for me, it was a lot more seafood, right? I'm actually going to do a story soon about how I actually avoid meat substitutes. I'd just rather not eat, whatever. But, people are like, well, fish is so expensive, but it's so good. Now, tuna is up there. How much was your tuna?
It was not cheap. It was like a little 6-ounce portion, and it was $30.
Yeah, I was going to guess 30.
So by the pound. We're talking
yeah, I don't even know. I didn't look. I am.
That sounds like it'd be $100. No, how many ounces is it a pound?
I'm not looking at pricing.
16.
I'm looking at how it's caught. I don't want to do. I don't really ever have to have salmon again, unless it's very good. Unless it's very good salmon. If it's Copper River or wild but most of what's on the market is farm raised. Color added, yes, and not very good actually, flavorless. It's just something to put in your mouth. Yeah. So because it's a short term thing, I will go back to eating a broader protein selection.
That makes sense. But you know what? There is something to say the price for perfection because it sounds like you didn't need sauce,
nothing,
you didn't need nothing.
Nothing.
That's worth.
That's great.
That's huge. And it's a
lightly,
weeknight meal.
lightly
like,
salted. Yeah, lightly salted, some pepper on one side, sear it. I think the whole process took me about 5 minutes at most.
True that.
Holy,
that was great.
It was perfect. And I've had some other experiences this month with this whole no nitrate, no red meat. I had some wild line caught halibut that was unbelievable. Whole Foods has stepped up their game, and I'm in Denver. So imagine if it's a Whole Foods on the coast. It's got to be totally
Denver's hippy dippy. There's money. There's a mark. I bet the Whole Foods is banging in Denver.
It is good. It's very good.
Yeah.
It's very good.
He kind of throws Denver under the bus. I'm just going to say that.
He's getting used to it. He's getting used to it.
Yeah,
still.
no, it's a beautiful place here, and everybody is so nice. I love it here.
So I'd ask you what you drink with it, but I'm kind of more curious about this insane conundrum that was dessert wines, which, and I'll just say it for everybody, I was like, there's just no way I can really come up with something. You know, I'm not a pastry chef. I don't have a pastry chef tied up in here. These wines are served so preciously. It just does. Look, I mean, I love, a big glass of milk with the chocolate chip cookie. You know what I mean? But when you're talking about this precious little, you know what I mean? Like Mussolini sipping on his little whatever, watching the battle happen. That's what I picture with dessert wine. Right. I was like, I don't know what precious dessert I can bring. I did come up with something, so we'll see how it goes. But what do we
Ali, let me interject really quick. Ali, would you say that in the food community that dessert is in like its own lane with a lot of people? There's a lot of food experts, and they sort of don't touch dessert at all. Or
it is I would say this. You know what? It's like this. I will use this old analogy. Say you know how to drive automatic. You know how to drive automatic. That don't mean you can drive a 5-speed. But if you're a pastry chef, you can work the grill station.
You can drive an automatic.
You can drive an automatic, right? Pastry is truly its own category. Something that I've noticed, in my time kind of helping out with James Beard. Both baking and pastry are their own category. You know what I mean? Both equally challenging.
It's more scientific, right? You can't improvise that stuff, really. It's you got to stick to the...
Yeah, basically, the room for error is niet.
Yeah.
And I would even say this, as someone that can kind of go, does food ever get carried away, Steve? Do we ever go, okay, this food is too precious? Right. Honestly, this just occurred to me now. Not with pastry. I don't go to a ton of tasting menus, but ultimately, no matter what, at the tasting menus, the desserts are usually like, it's got to hit a bit of a bullseye. And it's still, the work that goes into creating that beauty, and it tastes freaking awesome. It's not some weird idea. I mean, ice cream can get into weird ideas, but it's its own thing. Pastry, it's its own. Desserts, it can truly be its own thing.
When you go to culinary school, the pastry people have to specialize in pastry and bread making, and they go to a whole different department. They might take a couple other classes with the regular chefs, but they're taking their own curriculum the whole way. And then when you're at a restaurant and you come in and you go look at the kitchen, you're saying hi to chefs. Pastry chefs are in a whole nother area. They're in a completely different section, cornered off by themselves, probably temperature controlled. It's an exact science based on very specific ratios.
Chemistry. You need a scale. You have to consider humidity, you know, all that stuff. Yeah. I think to a degree, when people talk about the old New York pizza thing, right? It's got to be the water. Yeah. They're talking about the pH. They're talking about chemistry. You know what I mean? And then when you if you really want to geek on pizza, Chris Bianco in Arizona, right? He's in that chef's table pizza.
He's in LA again.
I know, and he's back in LA. And by the way, I just saw this in the documentary, but I saw his speech at the James Beard Awards last year. He's a fucking awesome guy. That guy is like nothing but a gigantic big heart, like just a really sweet dude. You know, when he talks about pizza, he's like, dude, it's shit in, shit out. You put in good shit, you get good shit out of there. But like, talk about taxing. You can't cover it up. That's why I love Neapolitan pie, man. That's why I mean the crust. That shit is flour. Anyways, bacon.
So Ali, what pastries did you make for us today, Ali?
Slam! You know, I had to use the power of creativity, and I have a teaser, but I don't want to give it away because I'll be giving too much away.
Steve, what's going on, Steve?
So I'm really glad he brings this up because when we get through this episode, you don't have to just think dessert with dessert.
Okay.
And we'll go down this kind of rabbit hole, which is the world of wine. And by the way, one of the most satisfying things you can do, or for me, when I'm eating, and I eat a lot, is to go to a bakery or a French bakery and eat a pastry that they've made. It's otherworldly.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's fun.
So you can think along those lines with dessert wine. So why did we do dessert wine? Why did I pick this? It's the fourth category. It's because everybody forgets about dessert wine. And you think red wine is broad, white wine is broad. This is a very broad category. You have late harvest, you have botrytis, you have fortified, you have passito. I mean, you got an insane amount of different styles. So I broke today down, there's a lot of wine here, but it's 10 wines. But I broke it down to 3 styles. Late harvest, passito, which is just drying in the sun. You dry the grapes after you pick them. And then fortification. Your classics that you guys might know of, sherry, port.
Port,
yeah, that's in that category.
Very important.
Ali knows Sauternes really well because of his love of Bordeaux. Not really well, but he knew what it was.
Knew what
right
it
away.
was. Well, I did a little Googling, but then I connected the dots.
But this category, people are missing out. There's a range of prices. So we go up to $75, but we start somewhere around $26, $30. These are all half bottles, all 375s. With some of the fortified stuff, you can leave in your fridge for 4 to 6 weeks and just keep having a little nip off of. It changes the entire evening because there's nothing like what you just tried. And it's a memorable occasion. Just like one of those old vintages of Champagne or an older vintage of Burgundy, Bordeaux. There's a switch that happens in your head that just clicks the memory button and you're never going to forget it.
That's a good point. I do remember like a couple of dinners where I had a great dessert wine and it makes it more memorable. It really does. Yeah. Are these typically higher alcohol content?
So I'm glad you asked. All right. So let's talk about these styles. The first style that we're going to do over here, we're going to do the late harvest. So you're leaving. Yeah. So you're leaving. So normal harvest, you're growing the grapes, you're walking around, you pick one, you try it. Oh my God, this is perfect. I'm going to make a nice dry Sauvignon Blanc, which I had a Sancerre with that beautiful tuna, by the way, Ali.
I was going to ask, but I didn't want to. I wanted to get into this.
Yeah. So you're picking at a perfect, where the acid and the sugars are at a perfect, they're right in the middle. Okay. So you harvest and you're making your wine. If you leave them on, the grapes are going to keep, the acid's going to drop, the sugars are going to go up. They might dry on the vine. The actual grape might shrivel. It can be attacked, like in the case of this beautiful 2016 Barsac from Bordeaux or Sauternes. There's a noble rot. It's a fungus called botrytis that actually in certain areas, Tokaj in Hungary gets it too. You have to have perfect dry or humid conditions, sunny in the afternoon so it doesn't turn to gray rot or anything, so it doesn't destroy the grapes. It's concentrating the sugars to another degree and adding flavor. So the grapes in the water in the grapes is basically evaporating. So all you have left is sugar.
Sugar, right.
So yeast, when you're doing your fermentation with a regular wine, say it's at 21 brix, it's going to end up at 12% alcohol. The yeast are going to be able to stay active. Inside this super concentrated level of sugar from these grapes, the yeast isn't surviving. So you're only fermenting to maybe 10%, 11%. While the Sauterne is a little more because we're at 13.5. Sauterne is always a little higher in alcohol. But this Tokai, this is 11%. My Baron Auslese from Austria is 11%.
So the late harvest ones are going to be closer to a normal wine, or even a little
even below,
a touch lower.
Below. Yeah,
right.
You can buy some German late harvest stuff like Auslese that is 8% alcohol. That's it.
Right.
This Court de Chaume, which is this is from the Loire Valley, made from Chenin Blanc. It's the first wine, 11.5%. That's it. What you're getting is this super concentration because of all the extra time on the vine. Your mid palate is luscious. It is concentrated. It's a little heady because your flavors are now up here. They got turned to 11. So the flavors are really intense. Your aromatics are very intense. So this is Chenin Blanc. This is different grapes from Hungary, ferment, etc. This was a blend. Actually, this is really interesting. So this Baron Auslese means late picked berry. So Auslese is just late harvest, basically. You're picking bunches, but you can go to where you're picking individual berries. Ooh. You're passing through the vineyard multiple times, just picking a berry, and you're going to make wine out of it. This is almost a multi-vintage. I don't think it's a Solera because I think everything is separate. This is 15 different vintages in this bottle. It is, where we go, Ferment, Pinot Blanc, and Riesling. So she does multiple passes. Everything is kept separate. It goes into its oak and it's aged. This is only $50. That's it.
I was going to say, it seems like it'd be expensive.
You would think, if you go to Germany in the Mosel and you're buying an ice wine, that could be $150 to $250.
I've had that. I remember actually, it was way back in the day, but I remember getting an ice wine from Whole Foods. You said berries. Do you mean grapes?
Yeah, individual grapes. They're passing through and just cutting off berries.
Sort of make sure, it's Europe, it's not France, that they're just like, oh yeah, I'll put the strawberry in the vine. You know what I mean? Yeah. Multiple fruit. Yep.
For the Sauterne, for the Barsac, the Barsac and Sauterne are the same thing. They're just two communes, two towns right next to each other.
Got it. Oh, so Sauterne's a town. I just thought it was that stuff.
Yeah, well, it's a town and a style of wine. It's a AOC, but they'll do 5 passes through the vineyard, picking just the right time for each little bunch.
How much is that?
This was actually one of the best finds that I got. Really? $33.
Really? Ryan, have you had that stuff? Have you ever had a Sauterne before?
No, I have not.
I'm going to let the cat out of the bag to a degree. I'm going to save my reveal for the end of this sucker. But I didn't even bother. Once I saw the gazillion wines on the list, so Steve will basically give us an email of everything he's covering. And this one was like, are you fucking kidding me? But about 4 or 5 in, I'm like, okay, I think I know what that is, Sauterne. And also was like, I've had that before. Now, when I had it, I did not have it at the end of the meal, which is when dessert typically happens. I had it at the beginning of the meal. Steve, I think he knows what I had with it. This isn't a reveal, but it's kind of a reveal. You'll see later. But can you guess what I had with the Sauterne?
Foie gras.
Kaboom! And
that was
my
it?
elbow swells from the gout. Yes.
That is the classic pairing for Sauterne.
Oh, wow.
So what was really crazy was and I think I said this in the Facebook description. It was when I graduated college, and we went to this restaurant that night for dinner called L'Orangerie, which was one of the last wave of French restaurants in LA. Apparently they've come back, but this was like kind of the end of that run, right? Okay. And we were eating there, and there was a couple people with us and parents, because parents are clearly paying for this meal. And one of the moms was all like, "Oh, you can't order veal." She's like vegetarian. I was like, "Great, I'm not ordering veal." But then I was like, "Well, I want to get foie gras equally, if not more."
Offensive.
Right. And cruel. I mean, it was because of cruelty, because she's a vegetarian, right? But she's like, "Well, if you're going to get foie gras, you must have it with the Sauterne." Okay. So that is some straight up Dynasty fantasy, not Fantasy Island, Falcon Crest shit.
Dallas or something.
You know what I mean? That's some real royal shit. That's some fucking blue blood shit. And that's when I had the Sauterne, and I can only describe the experience as like, it's PB&J, guys. It's like meant to fucking be.
They're meant not to be.
If you're going to have either again, what's so funny is, I mean, this is sweet stuff, right, Steve? I mean, the Sauterne is going to taste sweet compared to a freaking Chardonnay or a Pinot Noir.
Oh, yeah.
But when you're having it with this intensely fatty, a texture that can only come from innards, you know what I mean? And a little goes a long way. It's up there with sea urchin and Kobe beef. Is like less is more, literally. Well, more is impossible. So
do you remember if it was lobe or terrine?
Oh, dude, come on.
No, so was it seared?
Yeah, it was seared for sure.
Okay, then that's lobe. Super fatty. Semillon is the grape in here. It's a high acid grape. You also get this rich concentration of fruit. You have a sizable amount of alcohol, 13.5 for dessert wine. All of that is mixing with that fat and that earthiness and that just rich texture of seared foie gras. You have to have it once. Although in California, I think foie gras is still illegal. I'm not totally sure.
Come over to my neck of the woods where we don't believe in the rules.
We're not going to go into how foie gras is made, but I understand why it's illegal. It is up there with how they used to do veal. Probably even worse. But so let's go back to the dessert wines. So these are the late harvest guys. These are all rich, concentrated. Think orange marmalade. Think overripe peaches. Heady. Heady is my favorite word for dessert wines because the amount of flavors that are coming out and while you're sipping and drinking are extraordinary. A little goes a long way, to Ali's point. We're talking a 2 or 3 ounce pour. You don't need to be knocking.
That's what was so challenging. Is just like, what do you eat that you're literally have to like, you're literally kissing the glass. It's like get someone pouring you a $300 bottle of scotch. Like, don't gulp. Dummy, you know what?
Sip, savor, dummy. Enjoy.
Dummy.
I'm going to go off of a beaten. I'll go off a reservation a little bit from what I don't know what Ali is showing today in food, but my favorite pairing is stinky, spicy blue cheeses with these wines to finish. Wow. You can also have some triple crims that are really funky and earthy. But like a mountain gorgonzola, any sort of blue that is just really spicy and earthy and dirty. With these wines, it's perfect. So at the cheese course of a meal.
Yeah, for sure.
You might have a late harvest dessert wine.
Yeah, a Barzac Sauterne.
Have you ever done the cheese course for dessert?
Yeah. I love cheese.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah. It's a thing, and like as a savory guy, I freaking love it. And when it's funny, like sometimes like if you ever go to Costco and you buy like a Maytag blue cheese, you get this monster wedge, and you're like, ugh, and you get sick of it. I literally bet the antidote for too much blue cheese is picking up a late harvest wine, dessert wine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're just trying to like, because blue cheese works so good with red wine, but I almost feel like it would be nice to have multiple wines to get through a wedge. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, and if you are going to just go and buy some cheeses for the end of the evening, you're going to go buy a really good blue cheese. You're not going to get a giant wedge, or a big circular 2-pounder. You're going to get a little tiny thing of blue cheese that is pungent and spicy and beautiful. And you're going to spend a little bit more money, but the quality level goes up tenfold from something you might buy wrapped in plastic in the cheese area of,
For your cheese course tonight, we'll be having pre-made crumbled blue cheese. Suck.
So that's the late harvest. I'm going to get us moving a little bit.
Goes on a burger. Terrible.
That's the late harvest stuff. Look how golden these are, too. Oh, and by the way, people don't know about this wine that much. This is the Tokai. It's 5 Putanos. So they started making this Hungary because they were behind the Iron Curtain. They really weren't free to start exporting their products until the 90s. They didn't create this until 1990. And there have only been 15 vintages of this wine since then. That's it. And this is only $65 for something that is even more rare than ice wine.
That's not a $3.75, is it?
Yeah. It's just a cute little.
Oh, you're holding it close, and it's in the shape of a wine bottle more. Okay.
Yeah. See how he sells his stuff? He's like, or you can get this $60 option. Here's a little wine hot take from yours truly. Don't know why Steve's not blurting it out. Hungary makes great wine. They make great wine. And even though that looks expensive, they offer great value. Am I right?
Yeah. So here's one of the things, because dessert wine is disappearing from people's weekly consumption or even monthly consumption. I bet there's people that don't even know.
Weekly? Did he just say weekly? Are you nuts? We're talking about tasting menus for crying out loud.
No. A long time ago, these wines were gobbled up. Like, grandmothers just drank sherry. That's all they drank. A cream sherry. That's what they had every night.
You're right. Sherry used to be a thing.
Yeah, Tawny Port.
Yeah, but they were drinking all day and smoking cigarettes and not having triple creme freaking brie. You false prophet, Steve. Yeah. Well, back in the day.
Yeah, this is a long time ago. Dessert wine is just not something people think of falling out of favor. So the winemakers in Hungary have all these grapes. They have all these vineyards. They need to make money. So they started right around the late aughts. I mean, they were obviously doing it before, but they started coming into the market, into the U.S. market, late aughts, early teens. Dry ferment. That's their grape is ferment. So vinified dry, it's picked early. They're inexpensive, like $10 to $20, and they're really good.
Very cool.
But that's not that Hungarian.
No.
That's a primo.
That's
a primo.
Yeah, that's primo. Only because you have to take so many passes through the vineyard. You're picking little individual berries. Hey guys, sorry, my throat is still really dry.
That's all right.
Let's have a sip of that sauterin there.
What's the next batch of wines we got here?
Pasitos, dried grapes. So I have one from Napa, Stony Hill, Simeon of the Sun, Simeon de Soleil of the Sun. They dry the grapes after picking them. So they're late harvest grapes by themselves. Then they dry on straw mats, traditionally done in Italy. This is a Vinsanto from Chianti in Tuscany. This is Trebbiano, it's Sangiovese, and maybe Malvasia. I can't remember the third grape. You're picking late, so the sugars are already concentrated. Then you dry them so that there's no water left. They're even more concentrated.
Are we talking raisins?
Yes.
Shut up. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. And then you make wine out of all that sugar. Yeah.
Why are you laughing? This is baffling.
Yeah.
I was looking for a pot
You
shot.
could have just said raisin.
Yeah, it's a raisin wine.
Yep.
Raisin wine.
But even more unctuous, luscious, rich, heady, concentrated. A little goes a long way. This is 14%. Vinsanto is always a little higher in alcohol. I can't find the ABV on this. I'm going to guess right around 13 because it is California. So
it's
Napa
literally
Valley.
dried like a raisin, like frickin' Raisin Bran.
Yeah, and they do it all over Italy. Different regions.
So where does the liquid come from? How do you? A raisin is dry. I don't.
Yeah, but there's still some in there.
So they probably get it like one step before full raisin.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, come on, Ollie.
Well,
Use your head.
no, I can't because he's supposed to be telling me. You're the one who's actually bringing. I asked you if it was Raisin Bran. Do you know what Raisin Bran is?
It definitely has a lot of sugar. That should, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Perfect.
Okay, cool.
I wonder what dessert wine you would have with Raisin Bran.
Hey, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the sugar level. So, a dry white wine or red wine might have anything below 3 grams per liter of sugar. Most are right around 1.5 to 2. That Court de Chaume from Chenin Blanc, only 11% alcohol, but it's 158 grams per liter. It's a lot more sugar.
That's too much.
This Sauterne, the Barzac, 120. The Vinsanto from Felsina, Chianti Classico, 150 grams per liter. The Tokai is 158. Your sugar levels are really high. You have to match these. You're not just sitting around gulping down a 6-ounce glass of these wines. You're pairing them with food, rich, heady, flavorful foods. Mm-hmm. You're not really matching sugar to sugar. You don't want to go with a super sweet dessert with all this sweetness from the liquid. This, I'm going to guess, is over 120 because it was also dried. It's also Napa Valley.
Wait, $120?
Grams per liter.
Oh,
so
sorry.
Dry wines are 3, anything below 3. These are 120 to 150.
Okay.
So yeah, you brought up cheese. So in both cases, the late harvest and now the Raisin Bran wines, what would you eat with these? Because you are baffling me. Like, obviously, you know, fancy desserts aren't over the top sweet like gummy worms. But give me some examples here.
So with the Vinsanto, chocolate dishes, any sort of bitter.
That's a Sangiovese, right?
Yeah, that's this one, Felsina.
Like, you know how every restaurant has the, especially in, I should speak for California. Every restaurant has like the flourless chocolate cake. On the, what are we having with that? What dessert one? Okay.
You can totally have this Vinsanto with that. Okay. I mean, you can even go into the tawny port with that. This is a 10-year tawny.
That's a pretty common bottle, would you say, Steve? For
every bar and restaurant is going to have a couple dessert wines behind the bar, and the standard ones are a late bottled vintage Ruby Port, a 10 or 20-year-old tawny, and a couple sherries. Most likely just an Oloroso because it'll keep longer. The other big thing is how many people actually order those bottles. So some of those bottles might have been sitting around for a long time. Once it's popped, you still want to drink this, even though these are 20% alcohol. Still want to
just
drink
move styles, Steve? Did we just move?
I'm about to.
You're about to. Okay, gotcha.
I didn't know if Ali wanted to go down a wormhole with some of the food pairings for the first.
Well, you said chocolate. Give me like 3 more and maybe vary it up, because I will tell you this though. Have you guys ever been like, we love dark chocolate. Barely likes the dark chocolate.
I love
it. She's still in the 70s, right? Have you ever gotten up there? I've had dark chocolate that's up there. Maybe it's like for a recipe and not just.
Oh, you're saying 70% cacao.
Yeah,
I thought you were saying she's like lives in the 70s. I was like, what are you talking about?
I like to.
Yes, we do live in the 70s in this house,
like,
except for this month. But
I like to keep all my chocolate that I buy for the house is at least 70. Okay. I just had an 85.
You ever get that really high stuff where you're like, this shit is not sweet? What the hell?
Oh,
is
yeah.
that what you have with that stuff?
Yeah. With this, oh, yes. That would be perfect. With an assortment of really bitter chocolates. I like chocolate very bitter. I just had an 85. Yeah. I just had an 85%. It was not cheap. Chocolate is one of the canaries in the coal mine. It's probably going to be the first one that just global warming just knocks off. So chocolate's getting very, very, especially very good chocolate. So that 85, I think I spent $15 for a bar. You know, I'm having a little corner.
But that's the way to do. I don't know. I mean, I think that's cool. But what else besides chocolate? I'm kind of curious now.
So let's come back. Let me finish these, and then we're going to go through a whole diatribe of. We can really. I want to see what you started pairing with.
Let's do it.
So, fortified. This is the last one. In France, they're called Vin du Natural. Port and sherry are probably the 2 most well-known fortified. Mm-hmm. So the other 2 styles, you have to stop the sugars from being fully fermented so that you're not getting, you want to keep sweetness in these wines. So the easiest way is the sugar just dies off because the yeast die off. There's so much sugar in these wines, they can't keep going. You can also cool the temperature down. They just stop working. You filter everything out. You just have, that way the wine is protected so there's not yeast living in the bottle. One day they wake up and they keep eating sugar and re-fermenting in the bottle. So that's that style, and then even with the dried, you're wanting to stop fermentation. The easiest way to stop fermentation is just to fortify it. So in the case of the Muscat Bonavenice from the Rhone, this is 95% neutral spirit that they just throw into the liquid. They bring it up to, I believe this is at...
So, Steve, when you say neutral spirit, they're adding alcohol.
Yeah, they're adding alcohol, kills off the yeast, done, sugar remains, you filter out everything.
Mm-hmm. But that's not for a significant volume, just enough to stop the yeast.
Yeah, just enough to kill. Yeah, this is at, I think this is at 15%. Yeah, 15%. These are at 20. So in port, they just fortify straight up to 20% done. Then you start your aging processes depending on the style that you're making. You could just have a ruby that sits around in barrel for a little bit to round off the edges. It's released early. Vintage port is aged for just a minute and it's bottled so that its aging processes start in the bottle. That's what a vintage port is about. Then you have the tawny section, which is aged in wood. Depending on the house, this is a little smaller barrels. Some of them go up to 10,000 liter barrels. You're getting less oxidative measures, more liquid, less oxygen, so it doesn't just completely oxidize off. Average, so tawny is really simple. Blended of average age, 10, 20, 30, 40. Prices go up. The amount of fruit that's even left goes down. You know, you're going into more fig and prune, and the higher you get up on the 40. 20 is my favorite. It's a nice middle ground of flavor and price.
Are you talking about
Yeah, 10's the easiest because it's the least expensive. You're still getting almost like some dried fruits coming through, darker fruits, but tawny ports and then sherry. Two different types of sherry. Sherry that lives under this kind of biological, it's called flor, F-L-O-R. It's almost, it's just a organism that grows next to the water, so you're seaside in the two towns. So that humidity is making this stuff kind of produce. It leaves a little film on top of the wine. It's only fortified to 15%, so that it doesn't kill anything off, and it protects and adds flavor to the wine. The wines are super dry. A Fino sherry. You've probably had a Fino sherry, I'm going to guess, Ali.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
You know, sherry was, you know, what's kind of weird, and it does speak to a different era. My dad here and there would be like, oh, here's a sherry. In wine tasting, maybe we went and we're like, well, you know, you're like, drink. Like, oh, let me buy a dessert wine. Maybe I had a sherry. Yeah. But it's just never been something that I've actively... I mean, look, you just don't see this level anymore unless you're having a true chef-driven tasting menu. Yep. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's been ages. And then, you know, the problem is, too, is like, I think for a lot of people, it's like, I'll just keep having another glass of what I'm having. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, a lot of people sometimes are like kind of skipping the dessert. They're not... This is all about taking your meal to the next level, straight up.
Well, and this is the category that you can really, I mean, there's people that can just sip on a Sauterne by itself without a pairing. But this category here, you can actually just sip. This is your into the evening. This is the, instead of having a whiskey, a bourbon, or a scotch, you're sitting back and having a tawny port, an Oloroso sherry, Muscat Bonne de Venise. So Muscat is a really flavorful, aromatic varietal, and all those floral elements are retained. So you get this crazy, intensely aromatic wine that's also fortified that you just sip.
So, you know, when cut to, I want to say 2-3 episodes, when we were doing white wine, so episode 1, weren't you talking about Muscadet?
Muscadet. So that was the wine made from the grape Melon. M-E-L-O-N.
So how are they similar and different? Because when you said that, I thought about the dessert wine.
So you know what this is like? You know what this is like? The Moscato d'Asti. So similar grapes. Yeah. Okay. Muscadet is a region, an AOC, in the western side of Loire Valley that's made from a different grape, not a Muscat grape.
I get it. Region versus grape.
Yeah, region versus grape. Now you're in that Moscato, Muscat, highly aromatic, lower acidity, really intensely aromatic. That's that grape. And there's, I think, 4 in the family. Different clones of the same, inside that same family, the Muscat family. So you're going towards the Moscato d'Asti and the intense aromatics, higher alcohol, more viscous, little richer. Yeah.
So I think
this is the category. Yeah, you can just sip on these. You can also have these with desserts. You can have them with food pairings. You can start your evening with a sherry. Paired with different dishes. Think tapas. Start thinking tapas in this category. Wild. Yeah.
Huh. Hey, Ryan, you said that port looked familiar to you, right?
Yeah, that one.
Have you seen it? I'm going to throw it out there, and maybe it's just because port in general has that font. I don't know if it's that particular one. But can you get, I mean, I'm going to say this. Have you gotten port at Trader Joe's before? Anybody?
I have not. Do you think that's the Trader Joe's one that they carry?
I'm not sure. I'm the look of the bottle, the font, right?
Yeah, they could. That from? This is a super traditional style bottle. You have different producers. You got port houses. Taylor Fladgate, Dow's, Kopke is smaller producer. This is just a cool traditional looking bottle.
Okay.
I've seen this with different producers too. Easily Trader Joe's could be buying Kopke. This is less expensive too. This is only $30 for Kopke.
So the reason
And this
why,
is
Yeah.
a 750.
yeah,
Oh, right.
Yeah.
yeah. So
$30
let me-
bucks.
I have bought port before. No, I was not just having it with frigging tapas or pinchos, which I think is the Portuguese version, whatever. I had it because there was a recipe that called for port that I would make all the time around Christmas time, actually. You would take figs
Yeah.
and you would soak it in port.
Yep.
And then you would simmer it down, okay? And then you would add butter and chicken stock, and you would blitz it in a blender till it became a smooth puree, and it would be a sauce to go over pork loin. And it is a fantastic way to make a holiday themed, like a Christmas style pork roast dinner, and it would involve port and figs and simmering that down. That's
Hey, I
reminds
just
me
looked
of
up the Trader Joe's thing, and it looks like this bottling is pretty standard for this genre of
I
wine.
threw it out there
Yeah.
like the Chianti at Casa Bianca.
Yeah, it's definitely like the with the straw, like the wine bottle with the straw around it. It's a genre bottle for
Look,
this.
whenever I have to buy something for a recipe, it's like, shit. You know what I mean? Let's not get too crazy.
There was a time when I was having a lot of dessert wines. I was going out to a lot of nice dinners, and especially if they're like being bought for you, you sort of take the dessert wine as well, right? You're like, and having a lot of port, and so I think that's where I got the misconception that all the dessert wines are higher alcohol.
Same
This
boat.
is 20%.
Same boat.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
that's
because
up
when
there.
you said the other ones were 10 and 11, I was like, wait, what? I thought it was always higher. I think I was having port. Is sherry and tawny, are those higher
Yeah,
up as
so
well?
this sherry, this Oloroso, is in an oxidative style. It's not under that floor microorganism that's protecting it and adding different flavors. This is in a Solera. This Solera is 12 years old. So this vintage, say this bottle was just released, and there's a lot number on the back that can tell you. So say in 2022, this was bottled. Some of the original juice in there is from 2010. So they make their wine. It's designated for Oloroso, which is oxidative, going into a barrel so that it's aging in contact with oxygen, turning closer to some of the tawny flavors. But it starts at the top. The new stuff goes in, and at the very bottom is the barrel that you're going to pour out of. So you'll pour out maybe a third. It goes into this bottle, but it's mixed with everything above it. So for simplicity, let's say the 12-year Solera has 12 barrels in it. You pull off your 1/3 from the bottom, then you have to fill it with the third from the one above it, and one above that, one above that. Then with the new stuff, it fills in the gap, and it's aging and blending and mixing with all these different vintages over the 12-year period. Ali, you immediately, that whole fig thing, this is one of my favorite cookbooks. It's French Culinary Institute, Salute to Healthy Cooking. So I think this probably came out in the 90s to try to reinvigorate people of cooking French-style food.
Right.
It's healthy for you. I use this book a lot. Figs poached in port and peppercorns. So you don't puree it, you're just eating it. You can also do pears or peaches this way. You asked about other pairings. Think fruit desserts with a lot of these wines. They're not fresh fruit. They're cooked in some manner like this. They're poached. Those dishes go really well with a lot of the flavors in these wines.
What
You know,
about go
that
ahead.
same recipe, just because it's right on there, for that sauce, in that same book, it said, by the way, save some of this sauce and pour it over ice cream. Vanilla ice cream. So you could even just skip that. Maybe skip the chicken side, or maybe don't. Whatever. Throw it all in there. Who cares?
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, by the way, that's the end of the wines. We got through all 10 wines, only because we categorized them down to 3 wines.
I just thought of something. This is totally random, but I was talking with someone this week about like a beet and peach salad.
Yeah.
With like, you know, maybe with some cheese, with some
blue cheese,
or maybe they do ricotta or they do feta. But what about that? Does salad go with wine? Like, ever?
So you start getting into vinaigrettes. You can play around with flavors in regular wine. You go up to a fortified wine that has a little more oomph to cut through that dressing. It would go really well. You might not want to go full tawny port in your salad with blue cheese, but you can play around with some of the fortified or some of the drier, dried style, like the Vinsanto. There's no reason why you can't throw these wines into the middle of the meal.
You know, I just had on dinner on Tuesday, I had a beet and burrata course. And that to me, because if you think about it, once you get cooked beets, there is a lot of sugar in there. Maybe they added it, but like that would be nuts. That almost screams, would even like a lemony or acidic white wine work as well as some of that?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you could go into a really acidic white wine with that.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the salad dressings. Salad dressings are what screw up wine pairings. Vinegar. Anything with vinegar, you're messing with issues.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, Ali, let's
I know. Come on.
You've been teasing us all day. What's going on? What's your
I know. I'm trying to think of the best in here, and maybe I have it. Maybe I have it. I'll start with the teas because when I thought about this, and I thought about foie gras. So just think foie gras. So of course dessert wines, and I don't even think of a dessert because the truth is Sauternes and foie gras are as good a pairing as anything, right? Yep. So here's my first tease, and I'll 2 things in your mind. I want you to think foie gras, and I want you to think the scene in Sideways when Paul Giamatti finally drinks that bottle of wine.
Okay.
Burger? In and out? He went in and out?
Bear with me.
Did you go animal?
As you know, no. As you know, oh, by the way, this is what happens when you let it sit in the oven.
Yeah, he went animal.
No. Just to keep in mind, gentlemen, let me take you to In-N-Out Burger, where you are having a meal, you're having your feast, and you're having your main course, like my 3x2. My 3x2 animal style with light lettuce, tomato, chopped chilies. Oh, by the way, the best way to eat it is to always unwrap it from the backside.
So you get the wet first.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if anybody tuning in knows this, but Ali loves In-N-Out Burger.
This is just a fantastic thing. Here we go. Light lettuce.
You have one of the dessert wines right there with you, I hope.
So, that's good. Even sitting in the oven for an hour, stay warm. I mean, the vegetables look just shit, but all right. So the point is, you are having this fabulous meal with amazing wines at In-N-Out Burger. It can happen. Steve, what would you pair with this kind of sandwich? With the wonderful wine?
Wait a minute. Are you bringing a bottle of wine into the In-N-Out Burger?
One can do it.
Different in Texas.
I mean, Paul Giamatti did it in the movie. But Steve,
but he
pours it into like a little.
Bear with me. You're
pours it in a Ziploc bag.
Crazy burgers, whatever. What wine would you have with this course? With this,
the Kopke 10 Tawny.
Okay.
Hey, somebody's got back.
But keep in mind, This is not the course I'm thinking about for these wines.
Okay.
Anything else? I mean, just, you know.
Sauterne. That's a wine that Ali's going
My
with.
friend, I would suggest you save the Sauterne for the true course it was meant for.
So what are you pouring with that burger, animal style, out of these wines?
No. The point is this. When I thought about foie gras, I thought about the closest thing to foie gras I've had that wasn't foie gras. The Flying Dutchman.
What is that?
You've never had the Flying Dutchman?
No.
Ryan, have you ever had it?
No.
This is the foie gras of fast food. The Flying Dutchman is on the secret menu at In-N-Out. It is merely 2 patties with 2 cheese. That's it. This is, to me, the working man's foie gras. I'm going to use a spoon to consume it. And I assure you,
a burger
gentlemen,
with no bun.
this is it. This is it. First of all, if you've never had the Flying Dutchman,
No.
you're nuts. A, this is the foie gras of drive-thrus. A. B, you absolutely should have it with the Sauterne.
There you go.
Ali, I think you broke Steve. You broke Steve.
That's
And
just
me.
a burger without the bun, isn't it?
But it's
foie
Steve.
gras.
It's sideways though. That's the thing. It's sideways.
This is the thing. First and foremost, you need to have a Flying Dutchman. Because let me ask you this. Have you ever had just 2 ground beef patties and American cheese on its own?
No.
Well, a patty melt. A patty melt, right?
Yeah, but you
That
got
involves
bread. Yeah, you got
That
really
involves
thick.
Oh, you know what?
buttered bread.
You know what? I think when I was a kid, I was taught that a patty melt was a piece of
my
meat
God.
and cheese.
Oh, really?
Right.
I think, or maybe I wasn't taught that, but I think that's what I assumed
Yeah.
it was. So that's why I'm calling it that.
So you can have the Sauterne with that first burger, the animal burger. I mean, you can do both.
I'm telling you, when I had a Flying Dutchman, I was like, this is the foie gras of under $5. I'm telling you.
Is it as-
decadent, it is rich, and it's not a whole meal. Like, foie gras
Right.
is this decadent experience, but you're not like, oh, baby, what'd you do? Oh, I just crushed some foie gras, I'm going to take a nap. It was part of the experience. I guarantee you, and it doesn't have to be exactly In-N-Out. There should be a multiple course menu, and part of the order should have a Flying Dutchman on there, straight up. Believe me.
That'd be funny if you got a meal, Ollie, if you went to a restaurant and you got the Flying Dutchman. And so instead of the bread that they normally offer you, they just give you your bun sort of in advance. And then you get your Flying Dutchman.
Or some burger place just has a 4-course burger evening, and one of those courses is the Flying Dutchman.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you have to get a Flying Dutchman. Steve,
All right.
I believe if you had the Flying Dutchman, you probably had a Sauterne within the last, 96 hours or whatever that math
Right.
is, or how many days. I think you would be like, yeah, this would work.
This
Well-
is the foie gras of fast food.
I will say this. I will track down a Flying Dutchman, and I'm going to sneak in a sliver of Sauterne.
Gotta do it!
Yeah. Yeah. And try it. And I'm going to try it with the animal style burger too, but I never go to In-N-Out. You know how I feel about In-N-Out.
All I'm
the
telling
line?
you is,
Oh.
it's, look.
The line's
it is-
one of the
I know,
reasons.
I know I could get foie gras at the nice market here, but
You don't have to do foie gras. You don't have to do foie gras. It's just the
foie
classic
gras is
pairing.
awesome, though. It's
You know
so
where
good.
you know where I immediately go with dessert is not sweet, but almond, marzipan, Middle Eastern desserts,
Nuts.
baklava.
Always nut.
Yeah, with these
Exactly.
wines,
This guy knows.
Nut. Always nut flavor. No, okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Marzipan. That's a very unique sort of flavor.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
kind of desserts with these wines, I think are perfect pairings. Outside of, the cheese course with the really funky, earthy, dirty cheeses.
You gotta try a Flying Dutchman.
I
That's
will.
all I'm
I will.
saying.
I've never heard of this. I've never heard of it.
I mean, it is controversial like foie gras. I don't think it's going to be as controversial, but the controversy is that's a burger without the bun.
Yes.
That is the controversy.
And I think it's fair to say that I didn't make this, nor was it difficult for someone to make this for me. It is a thing.
That
And you know what?
16-year-old kid at In-N-Out messed up somebody's burger, took off the patties, put cheese on it, and then served it to somebody else and said, "Man, call that the Flying Dutchman."
Oh, I see.
There
The
is
genesis
no
story
other-
of the
Yeah.
Flying Dutchman.
There is nothing more deliberate than to make a hamburger without a bun. That I don't care. You
That's
could
true.
be on
That's true.
mushrooms, LSD, whatever they give donkeys to make them go through surgery.
You know what it reminds me of a little bit? It's kind of been trending a little bit on Twitter, which this goes so perfectly with Steve, is why I'm bringing it up, which is Midwestern, or pictures of Midwestern and specifically Cincinnati and Ohio chilies.
Yeah.
And they show you pictures of them, and it looks like the Flying Dutchman almost of, it looks so basic. But there's so much, there's such a rich thing going on there, Steve. I wish we could do like a Midwestern chili episode one day.
Yeah. I'll send you a photo right now because somebody just asked me. They're from Wisconsin, and they're like, "What is this Cincinnati chili?" So I had to explain it to
I
him.
love someone from Wisconsin's like, hey. Meanwhile, in Brockville,
We've got to do an episode on that. I think that would be really cool.
I had to find a photo of my normal meal when I go home and I eat at Skyline. It's
Okay.
3 chili cheese conies and a chili spaghetti. It's a lot of food. And I'm going to send you the photo because I have it.
3 hot dogs and spaghetti
Yeah.
sounds like a joke. Social media. 3
Yeah, I
hot
just sent
dogs
you
and
the photo.
spaghetti. Actually, that could be us if we had a guest. 3
Yes.
hot dogs and spaghetti.
You need a napkin, Ollie. I think you got a little something on your.
I will find a Flying Dutchman,
figured.
but I'm going to take in a bottle of Sauterne.
It is. I'll say
I'm going to
this
have
too.
someone film me doing it too.
Yeah,
This
you
has
should.
been quite a season finale. This has been, I think, my favorite episode of the season. We got through a lot. And Steve, we have some other seasons coming up. So we got season 3 coming up, and we are doing.
So we've already kind of laid out our next. We're going to have a little bit of a break. I am on the road. Ali's on the road. He's got a really cool family trip coming up. Then we're going to start somewhere in the middle of March, and we're diving deep like we did with bourbon, including the blind tasting at the end. We're going to do 8 I don't know how many episodes. I got to still lay it out. But we're going to do all rum, cocktails,
Yes.
dishes. I mean, we got a whole
Beef.
region of the world of food that
It's
can
kind
go
of. I
all
feel like
the way
it's
down
kind
to
of the
Brazil.
black. I feel like it, at least in America, I feel like it's like the black sheep of liquor and spirits.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's
People do not
it's
often
in vogue.
order rum drinks. We've talked about this a little before, but it's it's the rum and Coke thing. It would like Bacardi and Coke, which is just so basic and lame for our show's context. I know there's so much in the world of rum. I can't wait.
yeah.
Rum
People
goes-
have been in the industry have been clamoring that rum is going to take off, and they've been saying this for about 20 years. It has never taken off. There are people that there's a whole tiki subculture. There's people that do like.
But you have to
making
go to the
rum drinks.
specific bar for that. You
Yes.
can't just go
Yes.
to freaking. I'm
Nope.
staying at the Hilton. You know what? Kind of tired Wednesday night. Let me grab a bourbon, right?
Yeah.
But like, if you're getting a giant cup that looked like it was from Gilligan's Island, You know what I mean? That comes with straws to share. You know what I mean? That's an event. You know,
it
that's like fireworks.
It has a big personality, rum. Rum has a huge personality.
Yeah, especially aged rum, Jamaican rum, stuff that's done with dunder pits and weird. I mean, these are assertive spirits.
Cool.
So we'll go into that. Then season 4, we're going to start somewhere in May, maybe around Cinco, maybe towards the end. We'll see. We're going to do agave, not just tequila. We're doing agave, and we're going to do full 8 episodes so that we can talk about mezcal and sotol and all the other cool agave spirits that are made. And then, of course, a deep dive into tequila. These spirits are the #1 growing categories, agave, mezcal, and tequila specifically. So, yeah.
One last look of the foie gras of the guy. What's amazing is how, thoroughly, let's be honest, rejected I've been, audience, by my 2 colleagues here. And this was a big deal. This is a major epiphany for me. At first, I was like, maybe I can go to a banh mi joint and ask for, triple pate. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, there's too many elements of the sandwich. I was like, you know what? Like foie gras, like cheese, I just needed something pure. And apparently, Steve thinks this is a 16-year-old faux pas rather than foie gras.
That is something a 6-year-old eats. Mom, I don't want the bun.
6-year-olds eat. 6-year-olds eat a lot. Mom, I don't want the bun. Mom, I don't want fortified wine. I want a late harvest.
Oh my God!
I'm gonna be like what do you call it? I'm gonna have nightmares of the patty floating up into the screen,
and I'm eating it with a spoon.
Oh, of course! Wow!
Oh my God, you guys! Thank you so much. This honestly has been the most fun episode for me this season. Wow. Much laughter, lots of learning, but mostly laughing. So everyone that does make it this far into the episode, please subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff, and Twitter. Most of TikTok, most of our stuff is going to be ETDT official. So if you look that up, you have a good chance of finding all of our stuff. And with that, any final words from you guys before we peace out?
Ali?
Steve, you just better go goddamn eat this, okay? I'm like, honestly, I have a chip on my... Don't freaking eat this, okay?
Well, eat it. Ali, I suspect when you see this picture that Steve just sent me that you'll have some opinions about. I think Steve might like the Flying Dutchman based on this chilly picture. It's one of a kind. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
I think we'll get out of here.
This was a great season, guys.
Thank you, Steve. You knocked it out of the park. You put a lot of work into it and a lot of investing in wine, which I'm sure is going to be fun in the long run. And thank you guys.
Yeah, I can't wait to go there, crack into that Sauterne, and then go straight to an In-N-Out with Steve.
Yeah. We're doing it.
All right, guys.
So good. There's no excuse for not. Everyone here should be able to do this. We all have In-N-Out burgers near.
Ali, Steve, Ryan, and the Flying Dutchman say goodbye.
Bye.
Literally. I'm on my last bite. Peace out, everybody.
See you guys.